back. Turning now to From the Farm. The legislature in this session is in session, and the House Ag Committee drew dozens of folks testifying Tuesday.
Our ag reporter Stu Ellis is joining us now in studio. So what were some of the hot topics?
Well, it all began with, cuts on that the USDA has made, and with funding that was promised to a lot of Illinois programs, and the criticism spread from there. Farm groups really want the legislature to protect family farms from estate taxes that are forcing a lot of farms to be sold. One of those testifying was Andrew Larson, Policy Director for the Illinois Soybean Association.
I think one of the things that agriculture has really keyed in on over the last few years is the need to do something to help estates that transfer between generations. And the estate tax issue is certainly a really front and center piece of that discussion. Certainly it doesn't help that when you're having to deal with transitioning a farm between generations to have to then pay higher and higher taxes on that transfer just to keep the farm as you're already farming and keep that farming truly a family business. So I think there's a number of proposals out there, a lot of ideas that are looking at ways to lessen that estate tax burden on farmers and on all estates in the lower end of the brackets. And certainly we know that that's a discussion we've had with a lot of legislators, and there's a lot of interest in doing something to help on that topic. But knowing that this is a tough budget year for the state is always something we have to keep in the back of our mind, and something I know that there's a lot of interest in doing on. But we'll see later in session where some of the continued dialogue on proposals go forward, and hopefully at the end of the day the state of Illinois will do something to help lessen the burden on the states.
So that issue may be still hanging fire until the last hours of the legislature.
Certainly, I think everyone expects that that's going to be a conversation included in all the revenue packages and discussions that get put together. I think it's a good thing that it is a conversation in the revenue discussions. I know a lot of groups have been working hard to get that as part of the conversation.
Andrew Larson says another challenge to the soybean industry is the adoption of California's low-carbon fuel standard into Illinois. Illinois already has a fuel standard advantageous to soybean oil.
And while that policy has some opportunities for expanded growth in biofuel markets, soybean oil and ethanol, it also presents a lot of challenges. And if we don't do these policies right, and if we don't think about how the impacts are on different states and different markets we already have. For example, in Illinois, we already have a robust market for biodiesel. We use over 300 million gallons of B100 biodiesel every year, which uses the soybean oil from over 100 million bushels of the soybeans we grow. So we think that could be put in jeopardy under this LCFS plan, and it's a great thing we've been working hard as a state to work on over the last over 20 years. Investment into that policy and support for our infrastructure here in Illinois, support used biodiesel. A lot of it gets used in Chicago. A lot of it's a great Illinois story, and we're concerned that an LCFS program would put that into jeopardy.
That low-carbon fuel standard is part of the California CARB legislation, and many Illinois legislators want to adopt this very esoteric issue from California into Illinois, and that's what some people are quite concerned about. We'll have to find out what the legislature does with all of that controversial legislation.
That was a good one. Thank you, Stu.